Okay. So this is the time of the year that we get asked, how was your Christmas? What did you get for Christmas? It's one of the most common post-Christmas questions. So how often are you asked, what did you give for Christmas? The main perspective from which we see Christmas is of receiving, and that's great. Yet the core of Christmas is about giving. Did we give any presents this year? Or were we fortunate enough to just receive them? What's the best gift that you've given someone this Christmas, or ever? What went into it? How did you prepare your gift? And why did you give it? So we ask, what did God give? And as Steve was saying earlier, he gave us Jesus, Emmanuel, God with us. And Jesus, precisely this gift, had been planned for years, well in advance of Jesus arriving. There are references in the Old Testament which evidences how God had this gift for us in his long-term plan. Not one where he had dashed around the shops and grabbed something semi-relevant that happened to be left on the shelves, something that was sort of suitable for the world. No, what he gave us is his gift of Jesus. It was a life that was perfect and pure. I'm just going to wait for the slide to come out, thank you. Lovingly planned and wrapped with the biggest bow, with all the excitement of this gift arriving into our world. Angels heralding, shepherds, stars, wise men travelling from afar. The details have been everywhere around us this month. Here in the West, we give gifts mainly at birthdays and Christmas. But God didn't plan Jesus as an incidental Christmas present. He waited for the right moment, for this child to be born who would live among us and die for us. He had been working on his plan for his gift to come and save our world. We read about it in Isaiah chapter 7 and 9, in Hosea chapter 11, and elsewhere in the Old Testament. This gift was prophesied centuries in advance. That's how long he had been working on his plan. And he waited for the precise time, not for a birthday or Thanksgiving. How special is it when someone gives you a gift just because, well, it's the right time? Because you're in need of love, a pickup, some joy, a message of hope, the need for renewal. I have a gift I made for my sister in 2012, yet I've yet to give it to her because I'm waiting for the right time. God knew when the right time was for the world to receive his gift. So let's hear Matthew's account of the key events following the arrival and joy of God's giving us his most precious gift. The escape to Egypt. When they had gone, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream. "Get up," he said, "take the child and his mother and escape to Egypt. Stay there until I tell you, for Herod is going to search for the child to kill him." So he got up, took the child and his mother during the night, and left for Egypt, where he stayed until the death of Herod. And so was fulfilled what the Lord had said through the prophet, "Out of Egypt I call my son." When Herod realized that he had been outwitted by the Magi, he was furious, and he gave orders to kill all the boys in Bethlehem and its vicinity who were 2 years old and under, in accordance with the time he had learned from the Magi. Then what was said through the prophet Jeremiah was fulfilled. A voice is heard in Ramah, weeping and great mourning. Rachel weeping for her children and refusing to be comforted because they are no more. The return to Nazareth. After Herod died, an angel of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt and said, "Get up, take the child and his mother and go to the land of Israel. For those who were trying to take the child's life are dead." So he got up, took the child and his mother and went to the land of Israel. But when he heard that Archelaus was reigning in Judea, in place of his father Herod, he was afraid to go there. Having been warned in a dream, he withdrew to the district of Galilee, and he went and lived in a town called Nazareth, which was fulfilled. So was fulfilled what was said through the prophets, that he would be called a Nazarene. So what do we see here? Definitely the cozy Christmas story depicted on cards. It's not that. King Herod, furious at being outwitted by the wise men, is obsessed on destroying God's gift, who he sees as a threat to his own power. Imagine a gift that you had planned for years, specifically for someone, specially thought through, wrapped and delivered with such fanfare, and someone comes along with the absolute villainous intent of destroying it. Think of those gifts that you gave. What would it feel like? Herod is so determined to have this gift destroyed. He plots, he orders the killing of every baby boy in the neighborhood. Here we have the struggle between good and evil. The struggle between God bestowing his gift to the world and Herod wanting to destroy it. So we go from angels heralding tidings of great joy to angels now warning of death. Get out now. So the Holy Family are forced to flee from Bethlehem. Most of us have probably been in situations of joy that have suddenly turned to one of pain, panic, danger, fear. Perhaps we've been reflecting on some such moments of struggle we've had this year, or even over Christmas. We know that this season of joy carries a lot of pain for many people. This year has been a struggle between joy and pain for many of us. So why would God, after centuries of planning, arrange for his son to arrive at a time when he knew he would immediately be in acute danger, knowing that he would be hunted down by an evil king wanting to kill him? Why? But actually, this was the perfect time. A prince coming in peace into a climate of fear and evil, signaling from the outset that Jesus' life was not going to be without struggle. It is an indicator that the world rumbles on in destruction and evil, and as we do that, Christ's presence is constantly needed. So this quote from David Oud, who is an Anglican minister from the UK who now lives in Australia. He says, "In the child Jesus, there is someone who can bring joy and peace to this most distressing of tragedies. He is the king who will triumph in the struggle over all evils. He is the son who will one day willingly give up his life so that others may live." Matthew outlines why and how the Holy Family is forced to flee, becoming refugees. There is urgency. Joseph, in his faithful obedience to God, acts immediately. That night, they have very little time to prepare. Imagine if this was your situation, with you and your family. What would you take with you? You've got your empty suitcase. You're unsure where you might end up. You're unsure if you will ever return home. Think about your home. You're looking around your home. What would you pack in your suitcase? As starters, the basics for me would be, well, my phone, my phone charger, my power bank, headphones, my passport, a few favourite outfits for sure, warm clothing, a spare pair of sturdy shoes, which I also hope I'd be wearing as well, earrings. My earrings can't go anywhere without my earrings. Toiletries, my toothbrush, a towel stuffed in a pillowcase because it would double up as a pillow. I'm being practical. A few books, definitely my Bible. Food that's easily preserved, such as chocolate. A water bottle, sleeping bag. My mother's ring. Is there anything else missing? As you're about to set off, you're suddenly told you have to leave your suitcase and its contents behind. You can only take what you have in your pockets. Jesus and his family would have left with virtually nothing, like many people fleeing danger and seeking asylum. There is trauma in having to leave everything behind, your key items, but particularly loved ones. In summer 2023, St. Mary Redcliffe Church replaced their controversial Colston window with 4 new stained glass panels on the theme, Who is My Neighbour? The panels depict Jesus in multiple ethnicities to counter the Anglo-centric narrative of the white Jesus. They were designed by a local doctor in Bristol, Eilish Swift. This is an image of one of the panels, a modern depiction of Jesus and his family as refugees. What might they be met with if they arrived in the UK now, in Bristol, as refugees? Protests outside hotels? Flags draped on lampposts with racist graffiti? My parents and others of the Windrush generation were invited to the UK post-war in the 1940s, 50s and 60s to do jobs that many in the UK population didn't want to do. Yet, despite their often doing menial, laborious work, my mother a hospital auxiliary, my dad a scaffolder, at times they encountered attitudes and signs in public places, shops, businesses from landlords indicating, we don't want you here. To me, it feels in these past few years, we are hurtling back to these attitudes. 2025 has been a struggle of joy and pain, similar to the joy of Jesus' birth and the pain of the events following it. As we reach the end of December, we tend to reflect on the past year, the highs and the lows, as Steve has encouraged us to do earlier and throughout this service. What moments of joy stood out for you? Holidays, perhaps, special occasions with family and friends, an excellent meal, work or school-related achievements, England winning the Euros. What about the lows? What made you weep this year? The world feels wounded. Some of us struggle between reveling in the good times when we are also living through difficult times. But we know we need the joys amid the lows. As for the lows, for me, social concerns that have made me weep this year include the increasing number of children in the UK experiencing poverty, as outlined by the Child Poverty Action Group. Increasing levels of homelessness, according to the charity Shelter. Increasing mental health among young people, reported by the British Medical Association. The impact of climate injustice on the most deprived communities, of which I see among organisations I am part of. Increasing inequality. We are not in the cost of living crisis, which sort of implies that the rising costs affect us all equally. No, we are in the cost of inequality crisis. And then there's a disappearing compassion for refugee and asylum-seeking communities. This is what made me weep throughout 2025. What made you weep this year? What this year has moved you to wailing? Not a tantrum-like wailing that's performative, that's attention-seeking, that's all about me, me, me. But concerns that really touched your heart, made you weep passionately inside. In our Bible reading, Matthew tells us about the massacre of the innocents, the result of Herod's intent on destroying Jesus. Matthew quotes Jeremiah 31:15, and how Rachel is weeping for those lost children, exiled Israelites. She is inconsolable. Let's read it again. This is what the Lord says. A voice is heard in Ramah, mourning and great weeping. Rachel weeping for her children and refusing to be comforted because they are no more. Rachel represents every mother, every parent who lies awake at night worrying for their children. Her tears should be ours too. Our tears for all God's children, slaughtered, impoverished, trafficked, exiled. Rachel's tears are also a metaphor for how God is awake to and saddened by the suffering of his people, by his people. There is so much unresolved pain and trauma, fear and polarization in how we see the world. We say this group of people is feared and dangerous, and others say no, they are welcome and valuable to our society. Or this political party is just what our country needs, and others will say no, they're terrible and causing great division. Or those people with such levels of wealth are selfish and greedy, and others will say no, they are financially compensating everyone else's needs. The struggle is like a tug of war, with either side pulling harder and harder, rather than letting the rope become more slack to allow us to meet somewhere in the middle and seek understanding. Rachel is weeping over injustice. We should be wailing for those who, like the Holy Family, have been forced to flee and yet still find themselves at risk on all fronts. Instead, it feels as if we are collectively caught up in this climate of fear that puts us in danger of losing our ark. And when I say ark, I talk about acceptance, respect, and compassion for others, especially right now for those who have fled their homelands, like the Holy Family. When we let fear win the struggle, our ark is gone. Fear cannot embrace acceptance. Fear cannot embrace respect. Fear cannot embrace compassion. It is only when we step away from fear that we can wail without selfish intent for ourselves, but for others. Wailing that really touches our heart. Wailing that means we connect with our ark. Wailing that means we are transformed, moved to action, inspired to find Jesus in those who are being exploited, marginalized, and oppressed in our world today. Jeremiah's quote in Matthew is not just about Rachel's deep sorrow at the awful event of the exile, but God's true promise that brings hope and restoration, that embrace Rachel's tears. How can Christians celebrate Christmas in a way that dares to engage the world's struggles of suffering and yet still express hope? In Matthew 2:16, he says, "Out of Egypt I call my son." This signifies God's prophecy, calling his people from bondage. He will deliver and redeem us, ultimately through his son. Our performative wailing can often be a good satisfactory cry. We feel better. We cry, and then afterwards we think, oh well, I can't do anything about the world's problems. I may as well put the dishwasher on and then cheer myself up by watching Strictly. But in heartfelt wailing, we never are the same again, because we are moved to action. Action that might be finding out about relevant organisations and showing our support. I know organisations such as Refugee Welcome Homes, one of our city-wide partners, absolutely appreciate messages of support in this intense climate of views about refugee and asylum-seeking communities. Maybe donating towards an organisation's services, if that's possible, or attending an event or an AGM of an organisation to actively show support and find out more. Volunteering in some capacity. Or at the most basic level, we could find out the real facts about refugees and asylum seekers, usually via relevant support organisations on their websites, and then we are able to share the real facts with others. Wailing can move us from a sense of hopelessness to hopefulness. What we would have carried in our suitcase would have been hope. What we would have wanted to take from our abandoned suitcase to carry with us would have been that hope. I recently heard Sakina Noor, Bristol's city poet, recite her new poem, a poem that is her personal reflection on 2025. In it, she refers to attitudes towards refugee and asylum-seeking communities, the fear she feels for them and for herself as a daughter of migrants. She talks about her many tears in these painful times, about crying a well of tears to lower my bucket into so that I can draw fresh hope. It is fresh hope that we can draw from our well of tears. So let us remember that this season is about the gift that God gave us, his gift of hope for the world, for us all, for each individual here today. It's your gift. He's given it to you. It's an invitation to receive God's gift of Jesus and his sacrifice for each one of us here. Are you ready to accept it? God doesn't want you to destroy it. He wants you to hold it out in your hand and wrap it and embrace his wonderful gift he's given you and to be blessed by it. So let us pray. Dear Lord, may this part of Matthew's Christmas story also be part of ours. Thank you for your precious, renewing, everlasting gift to us. And as we emerge from this Christmas season in receipt of your gift, the newborn Prince of Peace, help us to cast away the fear from those promoting and practicing destruction. Instead, let us embrace your gift of renewal. As we emerge from this Christmas season, rebuild our ark so we unselfishly wail for victims of violence and those who, like the Holy Family, are forced to flee. As we emerge from this Christmas season, may we stay hopeful in our commitment to help address the roots of violence and the conditions that force people to flee. As we emerge from this Christmas season, make our voices heard in support of true peace. between peoples and nations. Make our actions impactful in support of true justice that includes extending tables, not building walls. As we emerge from this Christmas season, help us to keep aflame the flickering candles that signal hope, to retain the words of carols we have sung, proclaiming defiant hope, that where we walk in darkness, we see and are led by your great light of hope. Amen.